Hello everybody and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I'm the Outback Owl.
I'm Chibi Noob.
And I'm NV Jitters.
And we're here. We're still going green this week, as we will be for the rest of the year, basically. We're doing Dan Green stuff. I'm sorry, this intro is not doing as well as some of the other ones. Then again, some of the other ones probably weren't that good either. Yeah. We watched Yu-Gi-Oh! This week. Probably Dan Green's best known role as Yugi and his sexy alter ego. I've seen this. I've seen the majority of the show already. Have you guys ever watched this before?
Nope, this is my first time.
So I remember watching a couple episodes. I really only remember in the episodes that I have watched. Among these were episode 2. I have seen other episodes in the series, so when I saw the character Mai, I wasn't very surprised to see her because I'm like, oh, I remember her.
Yeah.
From the one episode where she and Joey are in a duel. And then I remembered Bakura from another episode, but I don't remember what that one was, and yeah.
Well, depending on how much we go into it, we might be covering everything today. But, let's talk to the person who hasn't seen this before. Envy, what were your first impressions of this show? I mean,
Honestly,
have you heard of this? There's no way you haven't heard of this before, right?
Yes, I have heard of it. I, not knowing what I was doing years ago, I attempted to play the card game. Obviously,
Oh God,
got my
terrible
ass
decision.
kicked.
Terrible decision.
But I really enjoyed it for what it was. I was actually getting pretty invested in it.
Yeah,
At least in terms of the dueling.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point. They do make a decent job of making the game seem interesting, and how they're explaining it is oh, you got monsters, you got magic. They don't really go into trap cards that much early on, but they're different combination of things create different. It makes it seem like a very creative game. We should point this out before anything else, if no one has realized this yet. If you tried to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh by watching Yu-Gi-Oh, you do not know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, because no one on the show actually knows how to play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. I remember my brother and I, I used to just have a deck of Yu-Gi-Oh cards,
Yeah.
and I didn't really play with them, mostly just because I like to collect them.
Yeah, they all look
rather than
really cool.
Yeah, I'd rather collect them than actually play them. But we did have one of those little rulebook pamphlets.
Yeah.
But I was too young at the time to really make heads or tails of what it was saying.
Oh, I can't make heads or tails of it today. So
I mean, I was about 8. So.
Yeah, no one's making any new jokes here. It's been said 100 times. Nobody knows how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's if you say you know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, you're either an idiot or you're a liar. You're either an idiot because you think you know how to play and you don't, or you're a liar who knows you don't know how to play and you're trying to trick everybody else, or you're both an idiot and a liar because you're lying to yourself about being an idiot. But regardless, I'm kidding. There are people who know how to play this game. It's just weirdly complicated for some reason, and it's not always easy to... Whatever, doesn't matter.
I mean,
doesn't matter if we know how to play the game or not. We can still enjoy the show.
It's definitely a lot more complex than its biggest competitor, Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I didn't even really understand how to play Pokemon either with the trading cards.
I that was another one that I just kind of collected as a kid.
Yeah.
I did eventually learn how to play it because I played... Back on the Game Boy Color, that's how old I am.
Woohoo.
Back on the Game Boy Color, they had a Pokemon trading card game, cartridge game. That it was actually it was basic as hell, but it taught me correctly how to play the game and it was decent.
Okay.
I was actually surprised that one never got a sequel. They have you could make one for each generation. And, it wouldn't, cost you that much, and you could still probably charge full price for it. I don't know how the sales were on it. That's probably why it never got big. But, yeah, I think Pokemon, once you learn the basics of it, is a pretty simple and kind of fun game to play. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not... Well, it can be fun. It's just... I feel like we're just knocking the card game this whole time. But
I mean, we are talking about the thing that it is based on.
We kind of have to a little bit.
Yeah.
Or at least the card game that goes as like a companion piece to the anime, manga, whatever it is.
Don't know which came
yeah,
first.
I actually just looked it up. The manga came out in 96 and the card game came out 3 years later.
Okay. So yeah, he was... I'm going to say this, that kind of gives a reason as to why, especially these early episodes, like, I don't think they had a full concept for the game. So it was kind of like, the rules are kind of all over the place. Especially in the early episodes. And that, because I'm assuming they're based on the manga. The manga didn't have any rules. It was just like, here's some crazy cool looking monster designs that I had, and I didn't really have a way to put them in anything else, so it's a card game now. I'm like, I don't know if that's how he came up with it, but...
My whole thing is like, if you are going to create a game that your series is integrally based on, I should think that you should have some rules set in place for the game, so that... Because it's kind of like a magic system. Where basically, like, you need to have, like, the rules and the logic set up for your world, so that way it makes sense.
Yeah, the only other, and I'm sure there's more, I don't really know what Bakugan is, or Yokai Watch, or some of those other things. I'm assuming those are this generation's version of Yu-Gi-Oh! And that, but I remember a game called Duel Masters.
I do remember this.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had a TV show, which was basically a parody of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's kind of hilarious. We should probably watch it at some point. And they had a card game, and they had, like, even... It was like the monsters and stuff in it were basically Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards on steroids, which was kind of fantastic. But I remember the game was even simpler than Pokemon. It was basically Magic Light. Like, it was an even less complicated version of Magic, and I played a little bit of Magic. It's not a super hard game to figure out. So, I think they came in knowing that they were gonna just make fun of something, but then they actually, like, made a card game that really kind of worked.
Well,
but yeah, we might look at that at another time, because the show and the dub and everything else in it is kind of great. I kind of love it. And the weird CGI monsters actually fit. So, but more specifically, we should at some point talk about Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, we should.
we really haven't been. So Yu-Gi-Oh!
I mean, the show just kind of just immediately blurts out. Like, I didn't know this about the franchise. Like, it's based on a fucking Egyptian god war, or something like that. Or
Shadow
something like
games.
that. Yeah. And that Yu-Gi-Oh! For some reason, just they don't really explain it, at least in episode 1, how he just gets one of those random artifacts out of nowhere or something like that.
Okay. See, to some degree, they do explain it later, some of the backstory behind some of that, I think, about, like, the archaeological digs and that they did. But the thing is, this is not the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime.
No.
There was a season 0 with a much lower quality animation and stuff like that I don't know if that goes more into the origins, but yeah, no one know. I don't know a ton about that one. So I know Kaiba had green hair, and, like, that's the main thing that I remember.
I'm just really wondering, like, so in episode 3, and we're gonna get to episode 3 at some point, but they go into, like, the backstory of how Yugi met Joey and Tristan.
Yeah.
And it's in, like, a vignette-y sort of flashback sequence.
Yeah.
Was that from, like, a different episode at some point in the anime? Like, was that originally, like, the pilot episode, or was it originally supposed to be, like, a flashback? Like, in the original, like, in the sub version, because I'm just like, this looks really weird, and this looks like a 4Kids thing. Or something that this studio did for America. I don't know. I don't trust it.
As far as I'm aware, it is not.
Okay.
Everything you're saying rings true for 4Kids, they would absolutely have done that, just to maybe save some time. I would not be surprised if that was the case. If anyone in the comments knows whether what Chips is talking about, the flashback in episode 3 was really the real episode 1 or whatever, I'm not going to be surprised, but let us know if that's the case, if you have that information. We could have just watched the sub, but the whole point was to hear the voice of Dan Green.
Yeah. I feel like, well, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh's on Netflix. I might just go and watch the original sub version, just so I can see, like, what it actually is.
Here's the thing, though, that I wonder about. Are they going to have the original Japanese sub, or are they just going to sub the 4Kids dub?
The thing
like
is,
the
is
re-edit that they would have done.
This is the thing with, like, a lot of the animes, or at least the few that I've watched on Netflix. Like, usually they will, like, they'll have, like English, like, caption, like, closed captions. They'll have that to go with the English dub, but then they'll have the Japanese audio with English subtitles. And they don't necessarily match up with the English words, because I have actually watched them for a couple of the different ones that they have up there. So, yeah.
Well, if you want to go back and check out episode 1 in the sub version, maybe let us know another week if that is the case. But, for what it is, episode 1 kind of starts just kind of in there. Like, everybody's already friends. We got Yugi, played by the immaculate Dan Green. You got Joey, you got Tristan, you got Taya, all the core 4 of this little thing. Only 1 or 2 of them are ever useful.
But let's also not forget Eric Stewart having the time of his life voicing Saito Kaiba.
Yes, Seto Kaiba. Yep, Meta Knight and everybody else. Like, I was like, the whole time, every time he showed up, I'm like, that's Kaiba, that's Kaiba. But, like, I kept going with that stupid joke where we did not acknowledge the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Existed for a little while. So, I was never able to say it was Kaiba, so I had to keep saying, oh, that's Meta Knight. Joey and Taya, and I think even Tristan, like, this is kind of like all the big people that you remember from every 4Kids dub are in this show at one point or another, is the thing. I mean, we know Dan Green at this point, but, like, Taya, hang on, who was Taya's, who was Taya's voice actress? God damn it.
Amy Birnbaum.
Yeah. And she... God, the internet's slow. My links are not working.
She was a couple of voices in Sonic X, but not until later.
She was technically the voice of Kirby.
Yes, that was it. Joey. Who was Joey? I'm, like, having to do this on my phone.
It's fine.
Played by Wayne Grayson, who was... bunch of people in One Piece, Pokemon, something in Winx Club that we didn't see. Oh god, he was Sweet Bear in Little Panda Fighter.
Please no.
Apparently Sam Riegel was Tristan. So there's
that makes so much sense. Hang
well,
on.
he's Tristan for the first 10 episodes.
Well, that's this.
Yep.
He did change voices late. He's kind of like James in Pokemon. He did not sound the same in the beginning as he did later on.
Yeah, his second voice actor is Greg Abbey, who was in Ultimate Muscle. He's the teacher creature in Kirby. He's Ripper from One Piece, I believe. Oh, he was Raphael in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yep. That was on 4Kids.
Speaking of, I think Wayne Grayson was Michelangelo in that.
Okay.
Bakura. We did not get to see Bakura yet, really. We kind of saw him for a moment in episode 3.
Yes.
But he was Escargoon.
And a little bit in episode 1.
Yes. Escargoon. Tracy from Pokemon. A couple people from Ultimate Muscle. Yeah, it's like it's the who's who of all you goddamn
Well,
voice actors
I
from
mean,
4Kids.
Seto Kaiba is also apparently Brock and James from Pokemon.
Oh yeah, he's big.
So there's that. Yeah.
Like after Dan Green, he's the number one that I always love from this. And he's the narrator from One Piece.
Yeah.
And I think he's also the like announcer in this, because I think there's a couple people who are like main voice cast who are also playing like secondary characters. Like Kaiba's also the announcer for the tournaments, and Joey is also like one of the henchmen for Pegasus, and like I think even Dan Green was also playing a couple other people.
I mean, they usually tend to do that. They like
it's cheap, and it's
things.
Like, hey, we have you in here doing all your lines for this episode. Can you also do like 2 throwaway lines real quick? It makes sense. But yeah, God, we should talk about the story at some point. Yugi is teaching his friends how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's called Duel Monsters, though no one in the real world will ever call it that. It's Yu-Gi-Oh. And everybody is not good and their cards suck. And they will not acknowledge that, but we all know those cards at this point, being this late in the game, and they all suck. So they're basically like video game characters starting at level 1. Except Yugi is like, apparently, oh, all my cards are amazing because my granddad owns a game shop. And I'm looking at some of his cards, like, man, he gave you some shit cards. But then, he's like, oh, hey, he's got a super, super rare card that is super, super rare. And genius billionaire playboy, I am not going to say philanthropist because he is definitely not, Seto Kaiba, who is for some reason in this high school, which he will never return to that high school ever in the series. Yugi and his friends do go back to high school every now and then. Seto Kaiba has never shown up in that school again, so I'm really wondering why he was there.
My whole thing is just the fact that like he's there in the school. I'm reading on the wiki he's the current CEO.
He is the CEO of Kaiba Corp. He is the National Duel Monsters champion, and he is, from everything else that I think I know about him, he is a legal adult who runs this company full time amongst all of his other hobbies. I don't know, and he's like a super genius who invents technology and stuff. I don't know that he needs to be in high school.
Why was he in the high school in the first place?
Like, I get from like the anime trope standpoint, you go to a school with your rival who also does the thing that you do and is like the best at it. Like, we've all seen that trope, but I don't know why Kaiba is in class. He is so above these other people.
I was under the impression that, if anything, because he's a CEO, I feel like he would be, like, at least masquerading as a teacher or something? I don't know.
From what you learn about Kaiba later, though, even that is so beneath him. In his opinion. No, he thinks very highly of himself. If you could tell that from this first episode, but like, it bugs me that like he goes to school, but the only time we've ever seen it is just to set up the conflict, and it's never brought up again.
I mean, I get that, but was he just like going undercover as a student to see if he could find out about the other Blue Eyes White Dragon? Is that all it was?
That was my other thought, and that's the dumbest idea ever. Because you are literally just... what is your plan? Are you just going to random high schools, registering yourself, joining a random class in the hopes of hearing people randomly eavesdropping on gossip that... And quite frankly, they just said he had a super rare card. There are hundreds of super rare cards out there. Why was his assumption automatically, it's the Blue Eyes?
Yeah.
It's the vaguest gossip he has ever heard, but he's going to go off that and assume it's the one thing he's been looking for years.
I know, and I was so confused. I'm like, I don't understand what is going on right now. Am I having a stroke?
No, you're not having a stroke. Episode 1 is just a little contrived in its plot. But it gets it going. It gets it going.
There's so many memes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want a condensed version of everything we're saying, go watch Little Karibo's Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. He condenses the first episode into like 5 minutes, and it's as concise as it can be. But yeah, so they go to Yugi's grandpa's shop after school. God, we're only like 2 minutes into this episode, and we already got like a bunch of complaints. I want to point out, I don't hate this show. I like this show. I loved this show as a kid. I still enjoy this show, even though I feel like these first 3 episodes don't showcase the best parts of this show. Yeah, so they go, and lo and behold, old man Moto has a Blue Eyes White Dragon card. Apparently, there's only 4 of them in existence.
Yee.
Which is, I was always like, whoa, that's super cool. But then, like, whenever I got them, they came, like, you got one automatically in the Seto Kaiba base deck. So everybody and their mother had a Blue Eyes.
Really?
Oh,
wow.
yeah. Yeah, they were,
Big
like,
dumb.
They were not as rare as everybody thought. Getting them in a booster pack was rare. But you could just, I'll get the Seto Kaiba deck. Yeah, everyone I knew had 3 of them.
So everyone had a Seto Kaiba deck.
Yeah, it was a little more rare because the Seto Kaiba deck was the only one that got the picture of it like it did in the show. Otherwise, It was a different kind of picture. Same thing with, like, the Dark Magician, which is, like, Yugi's signature card. You could only get that picture version of the Dark Magician in the starter deck. It would be different in a booster pack. So that was some way to get, like, more people to buy certain things. But yeah, they're like, oh, the Blue Eyes, I got the Blue Eyes, and Kaiba shows up, he's like, hey, I bet you don't have this rare card. Oh my god, it's the rare card. I will give you all my cards for that card. And I looked in that case, and I'm like, no, there's some good ones here, but it's like, I feel like, and I think because early on, this was like the first series of cards that came out where not all of them were fantastic. Like, I'm like, there's some shit cards in here. I wouldn't trade that.
Yeah.
And neither does Old Man Moto, Grandpa, and Guy was like, I'll buy it. Name your price. I'm a CEO and also the national champion, all this other sort of stuff. I'm like, man, where do you find time to go to school or do all of this? Like, I don't know. Like,
he's already done all of these things.
Yeah, I feel like I don't mean to keep harping on this. I feel like Kaiba should have graduated at like 15, if not earlier, for as smart as he is in this show. Regardless, Grandpa won't sell it. It means too much to him. It's sentimental. A friend of him gave it to him. That's actually part of his backstory for later when we find out a little bit more about the Millennium Puzzle. There's other characters that are involved in that. Doesn't really matter at this point. He insults everybody, leaves, and then tells his... They don't describe him as this, but it's his butler who goes and I think kidnaps? No, not kidnaps. I think Grandpa does go willingly. Yeah, he's like, I'm going to teach this whippersnapper a lesson. He challenges Grandpa to a duel, and the loser has to give up their rarest card. And so he does that. He beats Grandpa in a children's card game to the point where he has collapsed in agony. You figure that one out. And then he's like, well, I get the Blue Eyes White Dragon card. And then he calls Yugi. And he's like, hey, pick up your grandpa. He won't leave. I feel like I'm just taking jokes from Yu-Gi-Oh! But like these are the obvious jokes. I don't know how play a children's card game. Maybe he had a stroke. I don't know. But he is old. Maybe that was too much excitement for him. It's possible.
I mean, I know the game is they have like giant ass arenas with holographic images of the monsters. Does later on does it say whether or not if you lose in the game you lose like part of your real health or something like that, or not really?
That's a good thing to bring up. That does come up, but later. Right now, Yugi's grandpa should not be in any kind of physical pain. Yeah, that is a thing later, and you're right. But yeah, so Yugi plays Kaiba because he's like, I'll defend your honor with the deck that you just lost to him with. And so they go and play in the big arena, and they're kind of setting up the big holographic stuff. And it's like their excuse for now for having giant monster fights and stuff like that. Which is cool. It's cool to see the monsters jumping up and attacking and doing all that sort of stuff. It's a good solid like start and showcase of the series, and especially with this rivalry between the two of them, because one, we now get to see little prepubescent Yugi turn into a adult. We got no other way to say it. He goes through puberty.
Please tell me they explain that later in the show.
They do.
They do, and they don't.
Yeah. So, also, just a note, Yugi is 5'3".
Yeah, and the Pharaoh is not.
No.
Because I don't think they said it explicitly here, Envy. When he transforms, his body is being taken over by the spirit of an ancient pharaoh that currently resides inside the Millennium Puzzle.
Yes. The pharaoh's name is Atem.
Well, we don't learn that until much later. They call him Yami for a while. They call him the Pharaoh. They call him many things, but ultimately we know he's Dan Green.
Yes.
But yeah,
and honestly, like, as a child, I couldn't really distinguish, like, that the two voices were the same person. I didn't connect that, and I'd always just thought it was, like, younger voice here, deeper voice here. No, these are the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same. He has range, you know?
Yeah. But as a child, you don't think about that.
No, I didn't think about it either. I never thought about the fact that Ash and his mom have the same voice.
That is very true.
Yeah, so...
Wait, that's going to take some time to process.
You didn't know that? That Mrs. Ketchum and Mr. Ketchum are the same person? Oh, boy. You take a minute, You take a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so Yugi goes through puberty, grows a foot and a half, drops his balls, and suddenly becomes really good at playing. I always wondered, is he, you know, if he enters a tournament, he has to put his name down as Yugi Moto or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is he technically cheating by using the spirit of an ancient person to control his body and all of his decisions?
It's not really cheating, it's using your resources.
I mean, I feel like the Pharaoh is just kind of like asserting himself in those points. Like, I feel like Yugi doesn't really have much say in it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from point. He has a say in it. Eventually they talk. They like mind link talk about stuff. But yeah, I've always kind of wondered. I think he's kind of cheating a little bit. Like, there was another anime, Hikaru no Go, where they played Go.
Yeah, Go!
That game with, like, the white and black little stone things.
Yeah.
And it's not dissimilar because there's a dude, he touches, like, an ancient Go board that, like, a master Go player from, like, 400 years ago had, like, died on. And then the ghost of that guy is following him around, telling him how to play and become the best that he can. I'm like, you're cheating. You're cheating at all of these games that you're playing. Because you are not the one playing, really. And I think eventually he realizes that and starts playing on his own. But regardless, so the Pharaoh is now fighting Kaiba. And they're going back and forth with their 2,000 life points, which is like 4 times lower than the actual game is. But I'm assuming they do it to make it quick. And eventually it's revealed Kaiba has the other 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, because he's rich, and of course he would have all of them. And he pulls them out onto the field, and Yugi's remembering his grandpa was like, oh, some cards are more powerful when they're put together, like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. They say puzzle so many times in this episode. But eventually he gets all the pieces to Exodia, and he puts them down, and he automatically wins the game. And apparently no one's been ever been able to combine all the pieces of Exodia before, because this game is stupid and it doesn't make sense.
I just love the memes that came out of that episode with, like, Yugi revealing the card and then Kaiba getting basically destroyed. That's been a meme for so long on the internet. No, it's like I'm finally able to see the origin of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4Kids. If 4Kids wasn't a meme factory, I don't know what was.
I mean,
yeah,
that's a good point.
but yeah, so he wins. He beat the national champion, but it wasn't in an official capacity, so he's not technically the champion, I guess. But I guess then the Pharaoh gives Kaiba a stroke, which is canon. He like blasted his mind with psychic energy or something at the end.
Yeah.
And that was that whole shattering thing.
Mm-hmm.
He does that to other people. I'm pretty sure he comatoses a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Which is not really brought up the ethics of that.
I was wondering about that. I'm like,
I think they bring up the ethics of it in the abridged series. But it's just like, oh, you're a bad guy? Well, guess what? Now you don't have a brain. You are now... Comatose might not be the right... I think he lobotomizes people.
Ah.
He doesn't fully lobotomize Kaiba, though, because of course he has to come back. Right. But Kaiba's beaten. Cool beans. And some guy named Pegasus hears about it. And then in the next episode, the same guy, Pegasus, who invented Duel Monsters, sends Yugi a videotape, VHS tape, and is like, hey, I want to play a game with you through this videotape, and then we're going to see if you can come to my tournament thing. And Yugi's like, that doesn't make any sense. You're on a pre-recorded videotape. And he's like, am I? And then the TV takes Yugi into I'm going to call it a pocket dimension.
Yes, it's a shadow realm.
Yes, it's the shadow realm for what we know from later in the show.
Yeah.
And he reveals, oh, this is a realm where real magical monsters can fight and do things. And I know about the Shadow Games, and I'm bringing them back. It's back, baby. And, they start fighting. He's like, there's a time limit on this one, though. And whoever ends up with the highest life points at the end wins. And so, of course, Pegasus, because he invented Duel Monsters, has cards that he never released to anyone else. And also they show, like, I don't know if you guys saw this, there was, like, a clip that was kind of, while he was explaining some of his, like, I found the Duel Monster stuff in ancient Egypt and then turned it into a game to play. There is a clip from, like, this season's finale in the second episode.
There goes 4 kids.
It's
doing their thing again.
Yeah, but again, I don't know if that was supposed to be. It probably isn't. Like, as a kid, I wouldn't have realized that first watching this, but, like, upon rewatching it, I'm like, oh my god, they showed that in the second episode. It's kind of like in the first episode of Pokemon, Ho-Oh shows up, who would not be a thing until much later.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Like, it's weird, but yeah, so that happens. And of course, Pegasus is playing with cards that no one else has ever seen or has. And they don't do, I want to say this right now, I had Dragon Capture Jar. It does not do that. And yeah, so they're basically playing, and the Pharaoh, who is really playing the game, realizes, oh my god, he's also has a Millennium item like I do. There's 7 of them, and they're super powerful, and they unlock shadowy magic darkness powers, and he can read my mind. So he's like, any strategy I come up with is not going to work. So I'm going to... Heart of the Cards, which is a thing in the show, it's stupid, but I'm going to trust in my deck, and it'll give me what I need, and he just plays a card right off of his deck, so Pegasus can't predict it, and it's the Dark Magician, and it works. I would have found it hilarious if it was just a Karibo, but that's me.
Yeah.
But even then, he's not winning. But he's about to win because he's the. Long story short, he's about to get the final blow on Pegasus, but then the timer stops. But the timer should have stopped as soon as he said, "I attack this thing." It shouldn't have waited for the monster, because Yugi won that duel. We all know that. But because of BS, Pegasus wins. And he's like, guess what? Now you have to come to my tournament, and I'm going to win this puzzle off of you in another game. I'm like, why don't you do that now? But he doesn't.
No, so he can be Shang Tsung and takes his grandpa's soul away.
There you go. Yeah, so that's his motivation to go and play in Duelist Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
We also forgot to, before that duel, they showed a duel on TV with two of the side characters we'll meet that are also duelists. Bug Boy and the dinosaur guy.
I was about to say Beavis and Butthead. Really, they're Bulk and Skull from Power Rangers. They make them seem somewhat of a challenge in this season and a little bit of next season. At a certain point, they just become the two bumbling idiots that are always kind of in the vicinity of the plot. Like Bulk and Skull from Power Rangers.
I mean, I kind of saw that sort of like coming. I'm like, you don't give characters like this these kinds of voices unless you're going to turn them into comic relief at some point.
100%.
But yeah, so we also forgot to mention that Joey, who sucks at this game, is basically taking lessons from Yugi's grandpa to learn how to play.
Well, he's not anymore. His soul's gone.
Yeah, well, he was for first 2 episodes. Or at least the first part of this episode.
Yep.
But then that moves on to number 3.
Yeah, they're going to go to Duelist Kingdom because someone's got to get someone else's soul back. You know, regular Tuesday for Yugi. Mm. And it's a tournament. You have... It's kind of like... Do you guys remember Animal World? With the star things?
No?
You were there when we did Animal World. The rock, paper, scissors thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I remember.
I was really reminded of Yu-Gi-Oh! When we first watched that, because it's like you have to get 10 of these star things to get to the finals for the game, and you have to bet them against people whenever you play a card game. So that was just like a thing for me whenever we watched Animal World. But yeah, there's like a $3 million prize. You did this and that and the other thing, and all of this is explained on cards that have no description on them whatsoever. And, yeah, so Joey tries to sneak on the boat, but he can't because he doesn't have stars. Yugi gives him one of his stars. Tay and Tristan get on the boat and smuggle themselves on no problem, so I don't know what Joey's problem was. Then we get introduced to some other people. We do meet Weevil and Rex. And we also get a glimpse of Bakura, who is important later, but will not be now. And we get to meet My Valentine, who is...
That's her full name?
That's her full name, yeah. Who I think during this season was pretending to be psychic. And that's how she beat Rex and got his room. Because she didn't get a suite for the boat ride. So she kicks him out, and Joey wants her to crush him, which I think there were a lot of people at that time who were like feeling like, yeah, step on me.
Yeah. Well, we do figure out what her methodology for knowing her cards so well is in later episodes, because I do remember that episode with her, and I was like, oh, this is a very interesting method, but how would this actually work?
Oh, no, yeah. It's both very smart and very stupid.
It's not the fact that it's, like, very smart and very stupid. It's just how. Okay. Like,
I feel like we're talking about enough. We should explain what her strategy is.
Yes.
Yeah, she basically, like, pretends to be psychic. She plays without looking at her cards and all that, and she's always like, I know exactly what this is going to be. What she did, she sprayed each individual card with a different kind of perfume, and she can smell which card is coming next.
Again, that doesn't make sense, because all of the scents are all together.
And you honestly would have to have the olfactory senses, the nasal prowess of a bloodhound to figure that shit out.
Yeah. And also, more importantly, wouldn't the smell go away after a time? You'd have to spray your cards every day.
Reapplying.
No.
I'm assuming, in her bag is just basically like 40 perfume bottles that she is just coating each one every night. Which would ruin your cards.
I'm going to just say this now. If you basically, like... perfume lingers for a while. Like, it doesn't linger on your skin necessarily, only because you wash it off and, like, that stuff will fade. But if you're spraying it onto paper, that's that is specifically why, like, people spray perfumes onto letters, because the smell will stay.
That's fine, but you still run into the whole, it's all in one condensed spot.
No, I get that.
It should smell like a Bed Bath & Beyond, where you can't...
It should.
You walk into a Bed Bath & Beyond, you smell everything, but you can't smell anything individually.
No,
until
that's
you, like,
what
get
I mean.
right up on it.
That is why this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's dumb, but it works for what they're doing. Everyone, I kind of like the first season for what it is, because I think it does, even though it doesn't really tell you the real rules to any of this, it does showcase, like, the basics of the game in how it is interesting to have, like, a bunch of different cards, and, you know, two people could have the same deck and try millions of different combinations of cards to, like, do different things. And I think that is great. I think they set up a lot of interesting characters, not just in these episodes, but, like, in the later episodes of this season, that all had a theme or, like, some sort of thing going on, that they were able to come back, and it was always interesting to see them come back. And I think everyone, like, there was a lot of interesting, I hate to say, we had to call them gimmicks for what they could do with what they had. I think this, especially this season, did a great job of showcasing all of that. Whether it was Mai, or Rex, or Weevil, or the zombie people who come up later, or the machine guy, or the labyrinth people. There's, like, so many good ones. But yeah, that being said, no one in this fucking tournament knows how to fucking play this game. Yeah, they run into Weevil, and they're talking, and he wants to see Exodia, and, like a stupid son of a bitch, Yugi hands him Exodia, and Weevil just throws him off the boat, and it's like, no more Exodia.
Yeah.
And then Joey goes off and tries to get him, and then Yugi goes in after him, and somehow they're both able to not only survive that, but still get on the boat.
Well,
Taya
and Tristan threw him a life thing.
Yeah, but that boat would be going so fast on the water, you wouldn't be able to catch up in time.
No. Honestly, Taya and Tristan would have had to have been right there when everything happened to even get them that line in time. But yeah, so. Yeah.
And it ends with them approaching the island.
Yep. And Tristan was right. The sun was up in just a few more hours.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. I think, again, this is a great intro to the series, I think. I want to, like, talk more. I almost wanted to watch other episodes, though, because I feel like there's a lot more times where we got to see, like, either more really crazy characters or, like, just some really stupid 4Kids lines, because there's a bunch that come up later.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea. It's fun. But yeah, this was nice. This was nice to go look back on this one and kind of have some
Honestly,
fun.
I didn't really have any of the issues you guys had talking about. The only thing I questioned was how Yugi was able to transform, but you explained that to me. So that was really the only thing I was questioning. Overall, for having pretty much next to no experience with Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid, I enjoyed it. I might someday in the future go back and watch it if I have extra time.
Yeah, well, there's 5 seasons and all of varying
Well, at least the
degrees of
first
quality.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you're saying, like, we are complaining about some stuff. I feel like we're only complaining because we know about certain things that come up later that either contradict certain things going on now, or just explain it better, or explain it worse, or there's just, like, we're looking at this with some retrospective goggles. Like, again, is a good, oh yeah, I am. I watched how many damn seasons of this.
But I am still like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I honestly, for like, I gotta say, this show has its faults, but even its faults make it good in a lot of ways. And I don't know that I can showcase that a whole lot with these 3 episodes, other than they don't know how to play duel monsters. Which is clear throughout the rest of the series as well, but especially here.
I mean, there was the one scene where Yugi was trying to explain to Joey, like, you can't just throw monsters down. You have to add, buffs and traps and stuff like that. If you just do nothing but monsters, you're going to get nothing. You're going to just get
wrong. He's not wrong in that regard, but like they'll bring up like the effect or ability of some monster or some magic card or a trap card, and it'll be completely wrong from what it is in real life. Oh. Or they'll use it in combination. Like, okay, there is, might as well fucking go into some of this stuff, like, because we're not gonna see the rest of the show unless, Envy, you're just gonna watch it on your own. But in which case, I don't know. Are you okay with a couple spoilers for like some bullshit?
Yeah, that's fine.
There is, and if this doesn't get you to want to watch the rest of this, at some point, the evil clown that lived inside Seto Kaiba that has now been made a real person for whatever reason, stole Kaiba's deck and is now fighting Yugi on Duelist Kingdom with the Blue Eyes White Dragon. So, after that, I'm going to give you a minute on that. Also, they could kidnap Mokuba because they were going to kill Kaiba, who faked his death and is now hiding in a bunker in his bat cave, and it's hacked into. Another minute.
No,
I'll give you a minute.
Just keep going.
He has hacked into the Duelist Kingdom hologram stadium things, which are just throughout the island everywhere. And while evil fat clown that used to be inside of him plays his Blue Eyes White Dragon, he hacks the system to lower the Blue Eyes' attack power so that Yugi can beat it, which is entirely illegal and would not work at all.
I'm sorry. I'm just still trying to catch up to evil clown that was living inside Kaiba.
Watch this series. If you get anything from this, watch this series. If nothing else, for the batshitness that occurs.
One thing that I have a couple of friends that played Yu-Gi-Oh, and from what they've told me, like, Blue Eyes White Dragon's a good card, but it's not like the best card in the game, like people are saying in the show.
Early on, it was definitely one of the best cards in the game because it had a super high attack stat that not a whole lot of other cards could reach, and there weren't, back in like the first series and the second and sometimes even the third series, there wasn't a whole lot of. Okay, I'm just going to go into why I kind of dropped out of Yu-Gi-Oh! A little bit. It became too meta card game-wise. Like, the first couple series were just like, here's a bunch of random monsters, some of them with effects, some of them without. Here's a bunch of random magic things. Use them however you want. Here's a bunch of random trap cards. Use them however you want. And that was fine. And you could, and again, like I was saying, that how the show was showcasing, you could use any combination of these things that no one else could maybe think of. Like, it made it feel like however you played was going to be unique to everybody else. And I liked that a lot. As it kept going, though, and you got into some of the later card series, I just mean the series that were being released in booster packs, not necessarily the seasons, but even they kind of, I mean, they were always meant to be showcases of the new cards a little bit. But as they kept going, they started to employ, like, themes throughout the new card series, which was nice because it was like, oh, now there's a dragon themed one, or there's a ancient Egyptian themed one, or there's a this one, or there's a that one, and they would start to incorporate built-in strategies for that particular card series. Like, oh, if you have these 3 cards, they all work well together automatically, and you can utilize them, or these 3 cards and these 2 cards, and and that was fine. Sometimes having that is great. But you still had the whole wide range of you could use whatever you want from those booster packs with any of the old cards that you had and still make it work. As it kept going, they started leaning more and more towards those built-in strategies and like the metagame for tournament type stuff. Because like, you know how if you play a card tournament, you better like have the tightest deck you can have.
Did it basically turn to Magic the Gathering?
Essentially, like nowadays when I got out of it after a while because it was like at a certain point it was just like you need every card in this booster pack and nothing else will work with them. Only these cards, and they are specifically strategized and put together and blah blah blah. This is the meta and this is what you have to use, otherwise you will lose because these are now the strongest cards. And I think part of that is just like they knew they were going to get the tournament people to buy everything because otherwise they couldn't play at a high level. And that bled into there's no casual game left. I don't think there is a casual Yu-Gi-Oh game left. Pokemon did not do that. I think you can still play casual Pokemon. It's not an issue. I'm sure there's meta. There will be. There is automatically meta for tournament play, but it doesn't mean that you can't play casual Pokemon. I don't know who the fuck can play casual Yu-Gi-Oh now. Unless yeah.
I mean, this is kind of off topic, but like I've always wondered this. Does the Pokemon card game, does it work the same way the games do? With like the different types work at an advantage over the one other?
I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
Yes.
There's different cards have it's down at the bottom. They have like some weaknesses and resist. Like if you wanted to use water against a fire type, it'll do more damage. Not all of the weakness resistance things are there because there is no fighting type technically or ground type. It's just all like this one. Rock, ground, and fighting are all basically the same type. But different ones have different weaknesses. Like, technically speaking, a Rhyhorn is the same as a Machop. Is the same type. But Rhyhorn gets resistance to electricity and is weak to, I think, grass type. Versus Machop is resistant to normal type and weak to psychic. I think it was just a way of condensing things so you didn't have to have so many different energy cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pokemon is still way simpler and I honestly think a little more fun at this point because you can still play casually or just in whatever sort of combo move sort of I'm just going to do whatever, throw out whatever, and it could still work. You could still just do whatever. You don't have to constantly be up to date on every meta of the game. And I'm just going to point this out right now. This is all my opinion. If you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan out there and you still like to play tournament, or like if you can play casually, maybe I'm entirely wrong. I just don't think that it's the same game anymore, is all. And if you are having fun, you're having fun, I'm happy for you.
Now, I have a question. You mentioned before that the card, like, for magic cards and, like, trap cards, like, you said that, like, you would have the actual cards and what they would do on the show is not what the actual card description said. Is that like a matter of translation with the lip flaps? Or
Fuck no.
It's not. It's
no,
not.
Like, do you remember Yugi was fighting against Pegasus and he put down Komori Dragon?
Yes.
And then Pegasus played Dragon Capture Jar and the dragon got sucked into the jar and basically became Pegasus' card?
Yes.
Not even remotely what it does. Dragon Capture Jar basically means that every dragon on the field has to go into defensive position. And it can't attack.
Ah.
That's it.
Interesting.
Later on, Pegasus does the same thing to Kaiba, and he steals a Blue Eyes. It does not fucking do that.
Interesting.
There's a bunch of other bullshit that they pull that you're like, okay, from the name of the card and the way it looks and all that sort of stuff, this makes sense. But in actuality, that is not what the card does, and you're going to make people think that that's what the card does.
Okay. All right.
Because seriously, if there was a card that was like, hey, any dragon you play automatically becomes mine, that's a game-breaking fucking card.
I think they probably realized that, and we're just like, whoop, nope, we should probably change that. We'll have to do some cool shit for the show, but we might need to fix that one.
Yeah. But it's like... Yeah, and there's other stuff. Like, there was one that was kind of interesting where these two guys... It was like the first time they'd ever seen a tag team duel.
Mm-hmm.
And they played a monster card called Labyrinth Wall, which has like a very high defense, so nothing could really stop it, like, or destroy it. But it essentially turned the the field into a giant labyrinth thing that it was kind of like a D&D dungeon, but you played your monsters and they had to move through the labyrinth. I'm like, there is no mechanic in the actual game that does that. But me and my brother would try to figure out how to make that happen because we were like, that is fucking cool. Yeah, just other little things here and there where they're like, this makes sense for your show, but don't tell us that because it's not real.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just yeah. I feel I'm probably not the first person to complain that no one in Yu-Gi-Oh knows how to play Yu-Gi-Oh. But yeah, do you want to know any other weird craziness that occurs? Or rule-breaking things?
Can't really think of anything right now.
I'm trying to remember, like, no, because I know there were probably going to be other things that if I were to continue watching it probably bother me about certain cards. But again, like, I don't know. I guess I'm just, when do we get to like the 7 like millennium items? Like, does that
it's spread throughout the whole fucking series. It's not like a thing that just happens.
Okay. So it's not just with Yugi, it also spreads into the other ones that they added later.
You don't get them all together till season 5.
Ah, okay.
And that's Bakura's whole thing. He's trying to collect them too.
Yeah.
Because he's got a...
Right, I remember that about his character.
Yeah, he's got a split personality like Yugi does, and his item... It's very vague on what his item's abilities are, but one of the abilities is to track other Millennium items. I think there's like 3 Bakuras, though. It's weird.
3?
Oh yeah, there's normal Bakura, who's nice to everybody. There's evil Bakura, who is like... Well, he's evil. And then there's a third one that, like, he split off his personality and injected it into the Millennium Puzzle. Mm-hmm. But that really... He does that in Season 2, but it doesn't really show up until Season 4 or 5.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong. Unless I'm misremembering that. It was weird. Also, he's also the reincarnation. Everyone is a reincarnation, by the way, of, like, someone from ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
So let's add that on top of that.
Uh-huh. Like, because Yugioh is the reincarnation of a pharaoh. Mm-hmm. And then Pegasus is a reincarnation of what exactly? I forget.
Oh, God, I forgot. He might not be a reincarnation. I know Kaiba is a reincarnation of, like, some high priest or something.
Yeah, I read that. But
never thought a show about never thought a show about a card game would be this lore heavy.
Dude, you have no fucking clue. You keep watching this, you're gonna be like, the clown is just the tip of the iceberg. Oh God, I don't know. Like, part of me wants to go into, like, everything from all the other seasons and that, and how they changed, like, so many things, or, like, did so many things, or did cool stuff, or did stupid stuff, or but, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, ultimately, I'm a yay on this. I think that's just, like, the bottom line of it.
We know.
Whether that's because I just really enjoyed it as a kid, and it's fun to rewatch and kind of relive, and maybe even nitpick a little bit. It's kind of fun to nitpick it sometimes. But yeah, I recommend this show. If you have the time.
I mean, it's on Netflix, and you get both the sub and the dub. So,
Where are you guys on?
Yeah, I'm an A. I'm not an A. No, I'm not an A.
You're
I'm a yay. Oh God. I'm a yay. I'm a yay. I meant to say yay.
I mean, so for me, I mean, I'm a yay, but I'm more of like a low yay. Mostly just because I feel like watching the show would just drive me too crazy. Because logic.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on it. And yet I feel like it's crazy enough that I can just embrace the crazy sometimes.
Okay.
Like, I think maybe it's just like you get desensitized to the idiocy of some things in it. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, yeah. Like, at a certain point, they break the game so many times, I stop caring. Or do this or do that don't make sense, and you're just kind of like, all right, whatever. I'm having fun still. You know?
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just, I don't know, for me, sometimes when I'm trying to, like, understand, like, what's going on in a series, like, I'll delve a little too deep into it. And if, like, my brain can't wrap itself around the concept, or, like, things just don't make sense because either A, I'm stupid and just don't get it, or B, like, it's too convoluted and, like, there are some plot holes that are involved with certain elements of whatever's going on, then...
Well, with this show, it's definitely the latter.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, and that's fair. That's totally fair. And I'm gonna say there's one other complaint I have. Not so much in this one, because I think it was still early on and the game was, like, air quotes, simple enough that they could get them done quickly. But later on, these games get long. Like, every card game between any character eventually turned into, like, 3 or 4 episode long things.
So it's Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it got a little, yeah. So it was like, and if you're not watching week to week, especially when it was coming out, it's like, okay, you're gonna be lost because you missed 8 turns of something that, like, whole bunch of cards showed up and then they didn't, and then all this other stuff. Like, where did we end up here? I don't get it.
I mean, I'm used to long shonen battles. I watch Yugioh, so, like, especially parts 3 through 5, the battles tend to be like multiple episodes long. So I'm used to that.
So yeah, you'll be fine. But yeah. Any other thoughts on this?
One thing I can say, though, is that I understand why you corrected me last week when I tried to do the doodle thing. If I really wanted to do that justice, I'd probably blow out Audacity.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm just reading a little bit here on one of the Wikipedia things. Apparently, Bakura's role was a lot larger in the manga.
Oh, I have no doubt.
He was one of... Yeah, no, he was apparently, like, a friend from school.
He is.
Rather than just a classmate. No, like an actual friend.
I think they sometimes say that he is. You just don't really see it in the show.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if you're not going to really, like, include, like, their actual friendship in the show, you should probably just scrap that because it's going to come off very strange.
Yeah, like, but I think they needed him to be a villain, and I think they still needed him to be sympathetic enough that they were like, oh, but there is a good side to him that we do like. It's just that he keeps getting possessed by the evil part of himself.
No, I get that.
Which they do a lot of in this show.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they do flashbacks for him at all with, like, any good times that they had together as, like, friends?
I think... I don't really remember that. Those are probably not the interesting parts, but yeah, everyone has a backstory. Everyone has a thing. I mean, Pegasus' wife exploded on their wedding day, so it's everyone's kind of got their... Yeah, no, that's
everyone's got their own shit.
It's okay. She didn't explode, but when Pegasus reveals his motivation of, like, wanting to bring his wife back from the dead, which is apparently a thing,
yes,
you know, it's always like, I had someone that I loved, and then I lost them. And the visual they give us is them at an altar, her in a white dress, and then she blows up. Spontaneous combustion. It probably was not that, but they don't say how she died, so I'm going with spontaneous combustion. On their wedding day. And yeah. It's a weird life they lead.
I'm looking this up. I really, 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 really want to know.
She probably died of, like, a disease or something, and it was just a visual metaphor or something, but you didn't say what it was, and we clearly see her exploding.
Okay.
I don't know how well that marriage would have lasted anyway, because we all know that Pegasus is gay.
Okay, so apparently,
Envy, you did not hear his voice enough or his mannerisms enough in these episodes. He hits on Kaiba so much.
No, I'm not laughing because I think you're wrong.
It says she died
No,
after her 17th birthday. She dies after their marriage in the anime. Huh. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
All right.
Doesn't say what she died of, so spontaneous combustion can be canon.
Okay.
I don't know. This is a very weird show. It's a very weird game. It's a very weird lore. It's very weird, but you know what? It's an enjoyable kind of weird, and I don't know what better endorsement there is. Anyway, what are we watching next week? We say we go green till the end of the year, but next week's kind of special. It's a bit more a holiday thing, so maybe we were talking about doing a holiday thing. So next Sunday, before the week of Christmas, we're gonna watch one of the few Christmas anime movies, Tokyo Godfathers. So it's a Satoshi Kon, which I love, and I actually have not seen it the whole way through yet. So this is gonna be a new experience for me. And have you guys seen it?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right. Well, this is gonna be interesting for all of us then. So come join us for that. And then and then for the final week of the year, we will Dan Green it up again and finish things off strong. And who knows what 2021 will include, but it'll be hopefully something. Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and feel free to check out some of our other gaming videos, our weekly podcast Anime Yay or Nay, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!